Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. So today we have the marriage of the Duke of York and Princess May, and then we learned that Princess Alexandra was a little too close to the Duke of York and his new bride. So also we learn more about Princess Alexandra's daughters and how Princess Alexandra had one favorite of her girls, though she loved all her children. The Duke of York and Princess May were married at Chapel Royal on the 6th of July, 1893. Tsarevich Nicholas wrote, "Poor Aunt Alex looked rather sad in church. One can understand why." The honeymoon was spent at Sandringham at York Cottage, which was to be the young couple's future home. The choice was strange because the death of Prince Eddie still hung over Sandringham. His room was kept exactly the way it was when he was still alive. The soap was even changed when it showed signs of deterioration. The only additions were a Union Jack draping the bed where he died and a glass-fronted wardrobe in which his various uniforms were displayed. If York Cottage was a strange place for a honeymoon, it was even stranger as a choice for a permanent home. It was an unfit place to serve as a royal residence. It was so small and so badly planned as to make an unsuitable home for any growing family, royal or otherwise. The Princess of Wales had little to do with the choice of a house, but she was delighted to keep her son so near at hand. The prince had given York Cottage as a wedding present to the Duke of York, who was charmed with it. He was blind to its inconveniences, blind to the defect which most distressed his wife, its pedestrian and irredeemable ugliness. The heir to the British throne had no objection to living in a building painfully reminiscent of a seaside boarding house. He loved Sandringham and wished to make his home there. York Cottage was at Sandringham, and to York Cottage he could see no possible objection. One objection was there was no privacy. York Cottage was situated not in the park, but in the actual garden of Sandringham House. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were right near each other's doorsteps. The princess couldn't help but drop in frequently. And Princess May wrote in 1894, with masterly understatement, "I sometimes think that it was just after we were married we were not left alone enough, and this led to many little rubs which might have been avoided." Many little rubs are a commonplace of the early days of marriage. Too much has been made of the differences which were in fact no more and no less than the differences which were in fact that occurred in 99 families out of 100, even when the two women concerned are more temperamentally alike than these two. The princess generally loved her daughter-in-law, and she made a real, if slightly ineffectual, effort to remember that her son was no longer a small boy and her exclusive property, but a grown-up married man. The real difficulty lay not with the Duke of York's mother, but it was his sisters. Princess May had been brought up as the only girl among three brothers, all of them lively, intelligent, and normally mature. Her sisters-in-law, on the other hand, were lethargic, uneducated, and childlike in their taste and amusements. The Duchess of Fife, the only one of them married, was very tongue-tied when talking to strangers, so it wasn't very enjoyable talking to her, and fishing was her only real interest. Lady Warwick cattily remarked she would turn to music when open-air pursuits were not possible. Princess Maud was the liveliest of the three, but she was also the youngest and therefore less important member of the family than Princess Victoria, the eldest daughter at home. Delicate, a hypochondriac, and slightly embittered, Princess Victoria possessed a quick and not too kindly tongue. She did not spare her sister-in-law. "Now do try to talk to May at dinner, though one knows she is deadly dull," she admonished a guest at Windsor. This critical and unkind attitude so inhibited Princess May that even such an acute observer as Ponsonby would echo Princess Victoria's unjust judgment. He wrote, "I sat next to the Duchess of York for the last 3 nights, what you would call voluptuous but decidedly dull." Surprising is to find the future Queen Mary described as voluptuous, and it's yet more surprising to find her described as decidedly dull. Part of Princess Victoria's bitterness was that Princess May was now a married woman, and she was still single. The Princess of Wales made no effort to find husbands for her unmarried daughters. In 1894, Princess Victoria was 26, Princess Maud a year younger, so that the Empress Frederick had good reason to write, "It's really not wise to leave the fate of these dear girls in a state of uncertainty for years longer." She suggested that various German princes, among them young Lippe and the Prince Max of Baden, might be invited to England, adding, however, that Prince Max might be reluctant to come, having heard that Germans are at a discount and our dear Alex is favored. The Empress was right. The Princess of Wales was determined that no child of hers should marry a German, and she showed very little desire that her daughter should marry anyone at all. Queen Victoria replied that the Prince of Wales had told her that he was powerless in the matter because Alex found them such good companions that she would not encourage them marrying, and that they themselves had no inclination for it, to which the Queen added to a sage comment, "I think he's mistaken as regards to Maud." And Princess Maud, Princess Maud ultimately married. There had been some talk of her cousin, young Prince Christian, afterwards King Christian X, but in the end her husband was to be another Danish relative, Prince Charles, a naval officer, and according to Lord Esher, a very nice young fellow, brave and modest. As a girl, Princess Maud had been cheerful and gay, but after marriage she became a grumbler, bewailing her grievances. Although the Prince of Wales gave her a house at Appleton, near Sandringham, to use as a holiday residence, she had naturally to make her permanent home in Denmark, a country she disliked, and she was even more miserable because her husband's service with the Danish Navy took him away from her for long periods. The princess rightly had no patience with her daughter's lamentations. She must on no account forget that she married a Danish prince and a naval man, and he owes his first duty both to his country and his profession. For Princess Victoria, matters didn't go as they had for her sister. She wished at one time to marry a member of the Baring family, but she was forbidden to think of marriage with a commoner. Rumor has it that later in life she fell in love with her father's equerry, Sir Arthur Davidson, but that match too was judged impossible. One unlikely person was talked of as a husband, first for Princess Maud and later for Princess Victoria. During his brief premiership, that sick and unhappy man, Lord Rosebery, toyed briefly with the notion of marrying again. Marriage frightens him. He cannot believe in fresh, disinterested affection, Esher wrote, adding, however, that Rosebery ought to marry because I suppose in these days a prime minister cannot have a mistress. Since this is hardly in the frame of mind in which a man should set about courting a royal princess 19 years his junior, the Princess of Wales did well to be shocked when Rosebery appeared to consider himself a possible suitor for Princess Victoria's hand. Princess Victoria was to remain the unmarried daughter at home. It cannot truthfully be said that she was happy in that position, or that her mother was nevertheless loved her dearly, treated her with sympathy or proper consideration. The Princess of Wales would keep a bell by her side and ring whenever she wished her daughter to be at her side. Poor Toria was just a glorified maid to her mother, wrote her Russian cousin, the Grand Duchess Olga. Many times a talk or a game would be broken off by a message from my Aunt Alex, and Toria would run like lightning, often to discover that her mother could not remember why she had sent for her, and it puzzled me because Aunt Alex was so good. The princess was good, but her goodness was not informed by imagination, a quality in which she was almost wholly lacking. According to the author, as so often happens with unimaginative people, who was apt to behave selfishly, in spite of her overflowing love and kindness, because she could not put herself into the position of the other person. Although her daughters counted for less than her sons, she genuinely loved them all, and Princess Victoria in particular. But in her relationship with them she appears at her very worst, possessive, inconsiderate, and uncomprehending of any point of view but her own. From 1893 to 1901, the Princess of Wales' constant companions were Princess Victoria and Charlotte Knollys at Sandringham House. She spent her time keeping a benevolent eye on the carving school she had created for the boys on the estate. She argued with the gardeners who wanted great displays of flowers instead, as she said, her poor innocent little flowers. She also discussed church and parish affairs with the local parson. Every Saturday a list of hymns to be sung at Sunday services were submitted to her, and she would firmly strike out any which did not meet with her approval, substituting either peace, perfect peace, or abide with me. She behaved like a typical English country lady. She was growing a little eccentric, but it was a gentle, gay eccentricity which made her more lovable. She still mourned for her eldest son and probably Oliver Montague too. She was never again to appear in bright colors, but unlike Queen Victoria, casting gloom all around with her blackness of her dress, the princess wore mourning so unobtrusive as to go almost unnoticed. She would wear white or silver or blue-gray, and also a pale mauve. She would give smiles and impulsive kindness to anyone who crossed her path. One day she came upon a Scottish footman who was homesick at the Christmas time. She said nobody must be lonely in my house, and she pressed into his hand a pair of gold cufflinks. You'll get your proper Christmas present later, but these are something personal to you from me. No wonder the servants worshipped such a mistress, although she was not always an easy person to serve. She could not be unkind, but she could be inconsiderate, and she was always unpredictable. Sometimes she would put her servants' interests so far above her own as to make both them and her appear ridiculous. And then there were times when she would think they should have no other interest at all except for serving her. So I'm going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so, it would help the channel to grow, as well as give it a thumbs up. It's all a great help. And if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, if you could do that, it lets you know when a video is posted. More importantly, I want to wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you. Bye.